Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Billy, and we're back with another indie game devlog. Today, we're going to be talking about my first-person dungeon crawler game that I'm currently working on. I'm going to go over the inspiration for the game, the current state, and how I built what I have so far, as well as any future ideas that I have. Alright, let's get into it.
Do you want something?
So I've been playing a decent amount of Morrowind recently, and I want to see if I can create a dumbed-down version of the dungeon crawling Morrowind experience. Let's hop into Unity and see where we get started. Alright, so after a little bit of work in Unity, we have this very basic room set up with these 3 meter by 3 meter grid spaces. And we worked on a pretty simple character controller using Playmaker. So our character controller is pretty simple. W is forward, S is backward, A and D do the strafing side to side, and we look around with our mouse. All pretty simple. The mouse look has a sensitivity value that we can change at any time to multiply it. Same with the movement speed is multiplied by a variable called player speed. So like in Morrowind, if you increase your speed stat, your character actually moves faster. So in this game, I was thinking of having just strength, endurance, and speed as the only 3 attributes. And if you increase your speed, your character will move a lot faster and attack faster. After a little bit more work, we add the jumping and crouching mechanics. I'm still not sure if I want to have all of this in the game. Like I said, I want to dumb down as many things as possible so that this game doesn't get super out of scope. And we don't want to give up on this project, so we might get rid of crouching because, you know, in Morrowind, crouching leads to a sneak mechanic, and I don't know if I want to deal with all that in this project. We'll give that a quick test. Hit spacebar and you start jumping. And if you hit left control, your character moves slower and you're also closer to the ground. If you've watched any of my devlogs in the past, you know that I get 3D art assets in there pretty early on in the project. A lot of people might say that's a waste of time, but if there aren't 3D assets in the project, I think it starts to lose its appeal to me and I kind of lose my vision for the project. So I try to get assets in there as early as possible. So the first thing I do when I go to start making the 3D assets is I put a little cube in here. That would be my player reference. And the reference is usually like 1.8 to 2 meters tall, and then 0.6 meters wide, 0.6 meters depth. This is something that I do like automatically now, but I got the original idea from this webpage, UE4 Guide to Player Scale and World/Architecture Dimensions. And this is specifically for UE4, but the same idea applies when you're using Unity or literally any 3D or game engine. So this is the human reference size that I use for pretty much every project. And then scrolling down a little bit lower, it says the wall height is 3 meters tall, so that's what I'm going to use as well. And then if we think a little bit further down our like 3D asset pipeline, I'm going to be using a modular system for building the dungeons that the player is going to be exploring. So we're going to basically make things that are 3 meters tall by 3 meters wide and 3 meters deep. And we're going to use these cube sections to build pieces and parts, basically like Legos, to piece together to make the level designs. So now that we have our basic dimensions decided, we can start modeling. Alright, so after a little bit of basic 3D modeling, we have a simple level design kit right here. Alright, so we got some floor tiles over here, we have a wall, we have a half wall, we have some corners for each of those that we'll put on the edges, like when it turns 90 degrees, and I'll do a little demonstration of that here. So we'll duplicate this 90 degrees to the side, snap it to the grid here, and so now if you see this, there's a big gap in here. So we have one wall this way, one wall going that way. We can fill that gap with this little corner piece here, and now it's filled. We have a stair set over here, and as you can see, that only goes up halfway of the actual wall, so 1.5 meters tall. And I got these dimensions from, you guessed it, the same web page over here. We also have this flat ceiling tile and a smooth wall to ceiling tile arch that'll give us a cool look in our game. But then building this arch gives us the same issue we had with the walls, so we had to make a 90-degree arch-to-arch transition for the ceilings. So our level design kit's looking pretty boring without a texture, so we're going to do what we normally do and hop over to coolers.com to find a cool color palette. I found this one. I think it's pretty cool, and we're going to stick with this for now. We're going to sample the colors in Photoshop, and then we're going to hit it with a gradient like we have done in the past, and just to add that variation to the color. And then we're going to use this as our texture. After some quick UV unwrapping, we added some quick dimension and colors to our pretty basic but still interesting level design kit. And for this kit, we're going to have the pivot at 0, 0, 0 for every single piece. We're going to drag the wall in there. We're going to drag the floor to 0, 0, 0. Same with the half wall. So now that everything's at 0, 0, 0, we're going to export each single piece into FBX format and then get it into Unity. So we've imported all of our level design kit pieces. And next we're going to make prefabs with them. We don't want to build our levels by just dragging in these model files into our game. We want to have the model file in here and then make a prefab out of it so we can update it quickly and easily later without having to do too much hand replacement. So to do that, we bring in our model file, we make sure it's at 0, 0, 0, and make sure the rotation is exactly 90. We're going to create an empty object. We're going to name this the same name as our whatever we want our floor to be, and we're going to make sure that it is at 0, 0, 0. So now we can make our model a child of the empty game object we just made. So now it is under that. And then we drag our empty game object parent into any folder that we want in our project. So now this is a prefab. We can open it up, and if we wanted to, we can add more models to it. Say we wanted a cube in the middle for some reason. We back out, now there's a cube in the middle, and if we drag in another prefab and snap it over 3, that prefab will also have a cube in it. But if we don't like the cube, we can open up our prefab, delete the cube, go back, and it's gone for all instances of that prefab. This will come in handy later on. So we're going to make each of these objects a prefab. Once we do that, we can start building some levels. Let's just start with a simple room. So now we've got the floor and the walls. We can walk around and we see what it looks like. Next we're going to add the ceiling. Alright, so we just built our first room. Let's see what it looks like. Pretty simple, but it's looking pretty cool so far. So now that we know we can make a simple room with our level design kit, let's try to make something a little more intricate. After putting a little bit more time and creativity into the design, we've made a cool looking little level here. It's got multiple stories using the stairs, as you can see in the middle here. And it's got some sneaky hallways in the back over here. Let's give it a play. So we walk in the main hallway, down the stairs. So this would be like the entrance to the dungeon up here. We come down and we get presented 2 hallways that we can walk down, as well as this little pit area. And we can have enemies in here, objects like to pick up, chests, doors, etc. Stuff like that you would see in Morrowind or Skyrim. But yeah, I think this is looking pretty sweet so far. So we got our basic player movement, and we've got a 3D level design kit for our dungeons. I think the next thing that we need to make to prove that this whole idea is even going to work is a simple enemy AI that'll follow us through our dungeon that we've created. So let's figure out how we're going to do that. If you've watched the devlogs for Bullets and Aliens, you know that I used a nav mesh agent for all of the AI in that game, and I think we're going to do a similar thing here. So I've made a enemy capsule, and I've added a nav mesh agent, as you can see over here, onto it. In here is where we can choose the speed and how quick it turns and stuff like that. And it also uses Unity's built-in pathfinding system, which makes things easy for us, and it's pretty effective. So before we get too deep into the enemy here, we're going to prove how useful the prefabs already are. So instead of having to select all of these and turn them all static separately, I just opened one prefab by clicking open, and changing it to static here. And that way, when I back out, all of these objects are static. And now that our environment objects are static, we can bake out a nav mesh in one click. This nav mesh lets the enemy know where it can and cannot move in our environment. And it will use this nav mesh to figure out how to get to us in the fastest, most efficient way. Now back to our enemy object. Our enemy FSM is actually super simple. We're going to set our self as the self object, and we're going to find game object named player tagged with player. So we go to our player object, we see that it's tagged as player. Back to the enemy object. In the only state, it just says set agent destination as game object. So it's going to say you should go where the player is. And that's all our enemy AI does right now. Super simple, but it is effective, as you will see here. So I hop into the dungeon. The enemy is moving towards us. He's coming straight at us. And we're going to run down these stairs and jump off over into the side, see what he does. So it knows that it has to take the stairs to get to us because that was baked into the nav mesh. But if we jump off the side, you can see he goes back over to those stairs, around and up these stairs to come and get us. This proves that our level design kit works with Unity's nav mesh, and we're sitting pretty. I duplicated a few enemies in here to see what multiple AI will do when we're moving throughout the scene. And they all have a mind of their own. These ones are coming over here while this one took the stairs. I'm going to jump down and see what they do. Two of them are going towards the stairs. One is coming this way. And our little experiment is proving that this method is going to be successful. If you made it this deep into the video, drop a like or dislike to let me know what you think about the video. And if you like what you saw, consider subscribing. That's where we're at after a couple of days of development. I'm pretty hyped about this project. I think it's going to turn into something sweet. I just got to be careful not to overscope stuff and keep it simple, and it'll turn out pretty cool. Thanks again for watching. My name is Billy, and I'll see you guys in the next one.